Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today at the Arctic Circle Assembly. It's a genuine pleasure and a deep honor to address such a distinguished group. And of course, I want to begin by giving special thanks to my dear friend and ally, President Ólafur Grímsson of Iceland, who has worked so hard for so many years to protect and preserve the Arctic and the global environment as a whole. We find ourselves at a critical juncture in history. After years of warnings by the world's top scientists, we are now witnessing firsthand the troubling consequences of our reckless pollution of the Earth's atmosphere. Every day we pour an additional 90 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into our thin atmosphere as if it was an open sewer. The consequences of this reckless global warming pollution are now everywhere around the globe. Bigger floods and deeper droughts, stronger storms, melting ice, rising seas, the spread of tropical diseases and climate refugees. But nowhere are the consequences more readily visible than inside the Arctic Circle. For the past 30 years, we have watched with increasing concern as temperatures in the Arctic have skyrocketed upwards, faster than anywhere else on Earth, and as sea ice levels have precipitously declined. Just last year, the extent of the Arctic sea ice reached an all-time record low, a staggering 54% lower than in 1980. And meanwhile, Greenland, the second largest ice sheet in the world, experienced a record melting event that enveloped 97% of its surface area as Arctic amplification wreaks its impact on Greenland. Of course, this melting is not confined to the polar regions. Most of the world's great glaciers, sources of water to millions of human beings, are melting at an increasing rate. Just as the cryosphere is changing, so too is the ecology of the Arctic. Last summer, scientists were shocked to discover the largest algae bloom ever recorded on Earth, extending from open areas of the Arctic Ocean underneath the remaining ice cover, a phenomena that has never been seen before and was considered impossible. Scientists now believe that this massive bloom was the result of extremely thin ice that allowed sunlight to penetrate the ocean below and provide energy for the algal growth. Then, of course, without wasting a breath, some global corporations have begun to exploit this so-called new normal in the Arctic. To no one's surprise, some oil companies have begun exploratory missions into the new territory, which is a highly dangerous proposition. Reckless. This meeting is a critical venue for all stakeholders from around the world to come together to discuss the future of the Arctic and to lay the groundwork for saving the Arctic. You are on the front lines of the battle to halt and then reverse the climate crisis. You are first responders, just like firemen and policemen. One day, when the history of this period is written, people will look back and they'll ask one of two questions, depending on the circumstances in which they find themselves. If they see a world beset with the predicted catastrophes and lack hope in their hearts, they may well ask of us in our time, what were you thinking? Why didn't you act to solve this crisis when the evidence of global warming was so clear and the future of human civilization was so clearly imperiled? Or if they find a world in renewal with millions of new jobs being created and the transition to renewable energy and a new design for sustainable society, if they have hope in their hearts, I want them to ask, how did a group of men and women who gathered together in Reykjavik, Iceland, in October of the year 2013, find the moral courage and political will to do what was necessary to avert the greatest crisis humanity had ever faced? Good luck, my friends. We need your courage, we need your inspiration, and we need your leadership more than ever. Thank you.